by Swami Vivekananda. Chapter 2, The First Steps. Raja Yoga is divided into 8 steps. The first is Yama, non-killing, truthfulness, non-stealing, continence, and non-receiving of any gifts. Non-killing, truthfulness, non-stealing, continence, and non-receiving of any gifts. Next is Niyama, cleanliness, contentment, mortification, study, and self-surrender to God. Then comes asana or posture, pranayama or controlling the vital forces of the body, pratyahara or making the mind introspective, dharana or concentration, dhyana or meditation, and samadhi or superconsciousness. The yama and niyama, as we see, are moral trainings. Without these as the basis, no practice of yoga will succeed. As these practices become established, the yogi will begin to realize the fruits of his practice. Without this, it will never bear fruit. A yogi must not think of injuring anyone through thought, word, or deed, and this applies not only to man but to all animals. Mercy shall not be for men alone, but shall go beyond and embrace the whole world. The next step is asana, posture, a series of exercises, physical and mental, is to be gone through every day until certain higher states are reached. Therefore, it is quite necessary that we should find a posture in which we can remain long. That posture which is easiest for each one is the posture to use. For one man, it may be very easy to think in a certain posture, but this may be very difficult for another. We will find later on what that in the study of these psychological matters there will a good deal of action going on in the body. Never nerve currents will have to be displaced and given a new channel. New sorts of vibrations will begin. The whole constitutions will remodel as it were, but the main part of the action will lie along the spinal column, so that the one thing necessary for the posture is to hold the spinal column free, sitting erect, holding the three parts, the chest, neck, and the head in a straight line. Let the whole weight of the body be supported by the ribs, and then you have an easy, natural posture with the spine straight. You will naturally see that you cannot think very high thoughts with the chest in. This portion of the yoga is a little similar to the hatha yoga, which deals entirely with the physical body. The aim of the latter is to make the physical body very strong. We have nothing to do with that here because the practices are very difficult and cannot be learned in a day, and after all do not lead to any spiritual growth. Many of these practices will find in the Sate and other teachers, such as placing the body in different postures, but the object in these is physical, not psychological. There is not one muscle in the body over which a man cannot establish a perfect control. The heart can be made to stop or go on at his bidding, and in the same way, each part of the organism can be made to work at his bidding. The result of this part of yoga is to make men live long. Health is the chief idea. The one goal of the Hatha yogi is determined not to forsake, and he never does. He lives long. 100 years is nothing to him. He is quite young and fresh when he is 150, without one hair turned grey. But that is all. A banyan tree lives sometimes 5,000 years, but it is a banyan tree, nothing more. So if a man lives long, he is only a healthy animal. One or two ordinary lessons of the Hatha yogis are very useful. For instances, some of you will find it a good thing for headaches to drink cold water through the nose as soon as you get up. The whole day your brain will be nice and cool and you will never catch cold. It is very easy to do. Put your nose into the water and make a pump action on the throat. After one has learned to have a firm, erect seat, he has to perform according to certain schools, a practice called the purifying of the nerves. This part has been rejected by some as not being to Raja Yoga, but so great an authority as the commentator Shankaracharya advises it. I think it fit that it should be mentioned, and I will quote his own directions from his commentary to the Svetasvatara Upanishad. The mind whose dross has been cleared away by pranayama becomes fixed in Brahman. Therefore, pranayama is pointed out. First, the nerves have to be purified. Then comes the power to practice pranayama, stopping the right nostril with the thumb, with the left nostril filled in air according to one's capacity. Then, without any interval, throwing the air out through the right nostril, closing the left one. Again, inhaling through the right nostril, eject through the left according to capacity. Practicing this 3 or 5 times at 4 intervals of the day, before dawn, during midday, in the evening, and at midnight. In 15 days or a month, purity of the nerves is attained. Then begins pranayama. Practice is absolutely necessary. You may sit down and listen to me by the hour every day, but if you do not practice, you will not get one step further. It all depends on practice. We will never understand these things until we experience them. We will have to see and feel them for ourselves. Simply listening to explanations and theories will not do. There are several obstructions to practice. The first obstruction is an unhealthy body. If the body is not in a fit state, the practice will be obstructed. Therefore, we have to take care of what we eat and drink and what we do. Always use a mental effort, what is usually called Christian Science, to keep the body strong. That is all, nothing further of the body. We must not forget that health is only a means to an end. If health were the end, we would be like animals. Animals rarely become unhealthy. The second obstruction is doubt. We always feel doubtful about things we do not see. Man cannot live upon words, however he may try. So doubt comes to us as to whether there is any truth in these things or not. Even the best of us will doubt sometimes. With practice within a few days, a little glimpse will come enough to give you an encouragement and hope. As one commentator on yoga philosophy says, when one proof is realized, however little it may be, that will give us faith in the whole teaching of yoga. For instance, after the first few months of training and teaching, you will begin to find you can read another's thoughts. They will come to you in picture form. Perhaps you will hear something happening at long distance when you consume your mind and try to do so. These glimpses will come just a little bit at first, but enough to give you faith and strength and hope. For instance, if you consider thoughts on the tip of your nose, in a few days you will begin to smell most beautiful fragrance, and that will be enough to show you that there are certain mental perceptions that can be made obvious without the contact of physical objects. But we must always remember that these are only the means, the aim and end and goal of all this training is liberation of the soul. Absolute control of nature and nothing short of it must be the goal. We must be the masters and not nature. Neither body nor mind must be our master, and neither must we forget that the body is mine and not I the body's. A god and a demon went to learn that the self from the self from great sage. They studied with him for a long time, and at last the sage told them, "Thou thyself art the being thou art seeking." Both of them thought that bodies were the self. "We have got everything," they said, and both of them returned to the people and said, "We have learned everything that is to be learned. Eat, drink, and be merry. We are the self, there is nothing beyond us." The nature of the demand was ignorant and clouded, so he never inquired any further, but was perfectly satisfied with the idea that he was God, and that by the self was meant the body. But the God had a purer nature. He had first committed the mistake of thinking, "I, this body, am Brahman, so keep it strong and in health and well dressed, and give it all sorts of bodily enjoyments." But in a few days he found out that this could not be the meaning of the sage, the master. There must be something higher. So he came back and said, "Sir, did you teach me that this body is a self? If so, I see all the bodies that the self cannot die." The sage said, "Find it out, thou art that." Then the god thought that the vital forces which work the body were what the sage meant. But after a time found that if he ate, these vital forces remained strong, but if he starved, they became weak. The god then went back to the sage and said, "Sir, do you mean that the vital forces are the self?" The sage said, "Find out for yourself, thou art that." The god returned once more and thought if it was the mind, perhaps that is the self. But in a few days he reflected that thoughts are so various, now good, now bad. The mind is too changeable to be the self. went back to the sage and said, Sir, I do not think that the mind is a self. Did you mean that? No, replied the sage. Thou art that. Find out for yourself. The god went back and at last found that he was a self beyond all thought, one without birth or death, whom the sword cannot pierce or the fire burn, whom the air cannot dry, the water melt, the beginning less and the birthless, immovable, the intangible, the omniscient, omnipotent being, and that it was neither the body nor the mind but beyond them all. So he was satisfied, but the poor demon did not get the truth owing to his fondness for the body. This word was a good